Flex less I'm sick like her. I don't flex less I don't flex less I don't flex less I'm sick like her. I don't flex less I don't flex less I don't flex less flex I'm sick like her. Like her flex like her. Flex I'm sick like her. Like her flex like her. Flex I'm sick like her.
Yeah. It's Tuesday, 8 p.m. Enrico Martini show. Welcome you to everybody. We do it every week. Sometimes it's Tuesday, sometimes it's Wednesday, sometimes it's in German, sometimes I try my best to speak English. Today we have one of the episodes where we speak English, and I have like really two cool guests today. Really appreciate the way they accepted the whole invitation, and I'm really excited how this is going to be, because that's, you know me, I'm a little bit crazy, but I love this sport, and I do my little experiments. And I invited two guys, and this is like really signature for the show of mine. I invited two guys I don't really know. The one guy I was talking like about 15 minutes on the phone earlier, like 2 weeks ago. The other guy I'm just following via Instagram. And I think he does a good job and has a good idea of what he's doing. And that's why I invited these two guys, okay? But there's one thing we all have in common. And I, even without knowing these two guys, I can tell you this already. We have the passion for this game, for this American football, the greatest sport in the world game. And we all try to bring our little part to this sport, and some do it in Europe, some do it in the States, some do it in Japan. I will start with my first guest of today, who tries to bring it to the next level here in Europe, in Germany, Austria, and I won't make it any longer, the introduction. This is like Christian. Hello, Christian.
Hi, hello. Thanks for having me, and thank you for the kind words. Um, for the people that watch us, I'm the one that had a phone call with Edo,
Exactly.
in case you're wondering. I'm a co-founder of REDZONE. Some may know it. We try to bring football to the next level here in Germany. We founded like 5 to 6 years ago. We wanted to be a partner for teams, for coaches, even for club guys like general managers or something like this, where they can get better, because most of the guys are just doing it for fun, especially if you look at the lower leagues, and have no really sometimes they have no clue what they're doing when they found the club. So we wanted to bring knowledge. We wanted to bring guys together, and therefore we founded or established two formats. The one is the Redcon, which is a convention for club managers, for general managers, for marketeers, PR guys, team staff, where they can learn some new stuff, can network, can get to know some people, all in the field of American football. And the second format is the BCC. Formerly, it was called the Bayerische Coaches Convention. Now we refer to it as the BCC, which is actually the biggest coaches convention in Europe. This year we had around 450 attendees for 2 days. We had coaches from overseas, from Alabama, from other Division I colleges. We had coaches from ELF as speakers from the GFL. They're saying we try to get better. We all try to get better together, and we try to learn from each other.
Hey, Christian, thank you so much for the introduction. This is like a great philosophy you're following, and I didn't want to cut you short because you presented it in a perfect way. I'm really happy to have you here, but I don't want to make it so exciting for our audience. Who is the third guy today? And this is like the reason why we are speaking English today. We're trying our best, Christian and I. And this is like not Christian anymore. This is Kyle. Kyle, what's up?
Awesome. I appreciate you guys having me today. It's great to be here.
This guy is from Special Teams University. He calls himself like the professional long snapping coach. This is absolutely crazy. And when I found this out, that's the guy I'm following on Instagram, and I needed to invite because I think he does a great job. So Kyle, thank you so much for coming here today and have this great room. Like I said to you earlier, like you should be the host of the show. This looks perfect. God damn it.
Well, awesome. Yeah, thank you. And so this is something I've been doing for the last 15 years. I was a long snapper in college. Just didn't want to be done playing after I played at a Division III university in Wisconsin. So I just kept going and pursuing and asking questions. And every time I would ask questions, nobody would have the answers. How do I get better? What do I got to do? How do I improve my long snapping? And people would have little bits of advice, but sometimes it wouldn't make sense. So every time I was attempting to improve myself, is this the best way? What can I be doing better? And I also noticed that nobody was helping these guys specifically. So I started Special Teams University because I was watching high school football games. They were getting won and lost by bad snaps. You watch college football games and professional football games. The same thing can happen. And these guys had nobody to turn to. So like I said, over the last 15 years, I've been developing Special Teams University into the brand and the coaching that it has become. And it's been very, very specific. I don't work with kickers and punters. It's only long snappers. But I built it into what it is today, where right now I have over 20 professional long snappers in every level, every professional league in the U.S. You see I have all these balls over here from all the different leagues, Canadian football, European football, Japan, China, Australia. So it's really branched out more than what I ever expected it to. But I think it's been just the attention to detail and just always asking why and how. So it's been great.
Hey, that sounds great. And now I will adjust the whole setup of our displays to this, and I will display the caption of today's topic. I called it Impact of Good Coaching. And like both of you said it already, everybody needs a partner, a guy they can ask how to do it. And this is like something you normally do with your coach. You can do your little YouTube tutorial tries and everything, but this will only bring you as far as the visualization. It's not the easy word for us. For me, actually, it's not for everybody. It's hard, just for me, hard. But it's a lot different, I guess, in seriously coaching somebody. What is your like experience? You're doing it for 15 years now, Kai. Is it enough to just show it perfectly and show him a good video clip and stuff like this? Is this enough?
No. So what I found is every individual is different. I can show one athlete a video and say, this is how I want it done. And boom, they have it done. And other athletes, I have to walk them through what it looks like, what it needs to feel like. And a lot of it is just making sure that I'm getting into their brain and feeling and seeing and thinking about what they're trying to think and feel and see. I need to know, what are they attempting to do? What does it feel like to them? And when I'm able to get that feedback from the athlete, it's a lot easier for me to prescribe change. So a lot of the times I'm working with athletes in person. So I have a gym that I have here at my house. I can show you guys in a little bit. And that's easy for me because it's one-on-one. I'm hands-on with one athlete at a time, and we can get that work done. However, I do work with a lot of athletes virtually, and that's where I work with these guys all over the world. And with that, every meeting we have, I need feedback from them. I prescribe the drills that these are going to make you better for these specific issues you're having. But if they don't give me the feedback on, what they're attempting or feeling, it's harder for us to make that change and see that progress. But I've had a lot of success with that, and even through language barriers and time zone differences, that can be kind of hard sometimes, but it's been really successful.
Christian, a question to you. Did you, before I sent you that profile of Coach Carl, did you know there's like that specific coaches in American football in the States? They're just teaching that, because before I followed that page from Coach Carl, I didn't know about it. It's like basically to give our listeners an understanding for this. It's like basically in soccer playing to coach the goalkeeper to just jump to the left side. Just that's for my
That's a
understanding.
good one.
Or like
Yeah,
doing just corner kicks. This example is probably better. Just
yeah,
to work
yeah.
on the corner kicks. I love that whole idea because I'm a huge fan of details, and to have like specific guys on specific tasks and working on specific, like really intensely, this is something I really appreciate. So Christian, you do the conventions, you get informed what kind of different coaches is around in American football, but you knew about this already.
I knew about him. I think somebody sent me his profile like 2 or 3 weeks prior to our phone call. But I'm still not following yet, so apologies.
Come on.
I will definitely afterwards. Um, so yeah, I think it's really special because everybody knows those receiver pages like route running or QB pages, like how do I throw or something like that. But I think long snapping is really special. And maybe this is the reason that I didn't follow until now because it's so special, it's so unique. And I would like to ask Kyle, what is the special component of long snapping? How can you so what makes it special? Hard to
Yeah.
do and hard to coach.
Yeah, so I think most people just don't care. They don't care about the snapper. Like somebody does it, as long as it gets there, nobody cares. So
Yeah.
one of my big slogans is go unnoticed. So I have like my black on black logo up here on the screen. Like that's a big thing of mine because if we do our jobs correctly, nobody should know your name. You should not be somebody that like people want you to sign autographs for them. And that's something that we really preach hard here. But I think the thing that makes it harder is that, it's a very specialized position. We're supposed to use two hands upside down to throw the ball to the same exact spot every time. It's a lot harder than people would imagine it to be. So all the guys that I have come in, we talk about the difference between being effective and being efficient. And in every sport, you have effective players and efficient players. And the effective guys might be able to get the job done, but they're not really good. And I have athletes, I've coached Super Bowl champions, Pro Bowlers, all pro selections that you can tell the difference. You watch them throw the ball and you're like, I think that guy knows what he's doing. There's something different about it. We just try to find those differences and coach them up. What does make that athlete better? Are they using more efficiency? Are they more balanced, more controlled? Do they transition cleaner from the snap to the block? There's a lot that goes into it. It's not just throwing the ball back, but on punt snaps, it's the 15-yard snap. On field goal snaps, we're trying to get the perfect amount of rotations so the holder just has to catch it and set it down and doesn't have to rotate the ball at all, which speeds up the operation times. We have to protect afterwards. So how do you go from upside down to up without getting run over, especially at the higher levels where the guys across from you are getting paid a lot more money to defeat you than you're getting paid to block them. So it can be kind of a daunting task, and it takes a special athlete that doesn't care about being noticed and getting that fame and being in the spotlight. And they want to just be able to help their team.
Okay, when you look especially at the NFL, there are Pro Bowl long snappers. What makes them Pro Bowl long snappers? Because you usually think that every long snapper in the NFL can long snap.
Right. Well, and yeah, at the highest level, everybody's good. So what separates them is very fine details. And in all honesty, I think right now, what decides a Pro Bowl snapper is honestly what other coaches' opinions are about that. I don't think they really look too much into their stats or how good they are. They're like, yeah, that guy is pretty good. He throws the ball, gets back there, and we like him. We see him a couple times a year, and that's how it goes. One thing that I'm working on with a couple different people and different companies is teaching NFL scouts how to actually scout this position. Because one thing that I found out recently that I wasn't even aware of, NFL scouts, most of them have no clue how to scout it. They go off of a time. They time the snappers. They look at them. If they played at a bigger school, they must be good. But what we've seen is sometimes that isn't the case. You know, they maybe will draft a long snapper and he doesn't make the team because he couldn't block or he wasn't good enough. And so a lot of teams are cycling through these athletes, just trying to like cross their fingers and find the right guy because they don't know really what to look for. And so that's what I'm helping these guys out with. There's a company I've been talking to recently that we're going to be trying to set up some kind of coaching clinics for scouts to be able to learn more about it. Because, I mean, the only people that really care about snappers are kickers and punters because they need us. Usually the rest of the team, you know, the snapper doesn't really do anything. They don't work very hard. You know, that's just the opinion that most athletes have is they're just on the other field and sometimes they come and snap the ball and it must not be that hard. So we're just trying to change that opinion about the position. So, you know, not getting a ton of notoriety, but at least helping people be able to understand it and be able to scout it and coach it differently.
That sounds really interesting. Let me jump into this this topic because I wanted to have that kind of blind date experience you're having right now. That was my whole idea. Okay, the one guy is organizing the conventions in Europe, the biggest of Europe. The other one is like a freak of what he's doing. And he's like a really good speaker at the same time. And he explains really well. So I am enjoying this right now. And I knew already in the beginning, Christian, that what Kyle is doing is probably way too far for our status quo, what we are doing here in Europe. Because sometimes, yeah, we have major problems. Okay, Kyle, I don't want to give another bad example, but many guys in their position, it's not overall super bad. I'm just telling you, I don't know what you know about European football, but if I got the ranking right, it's like the United States of America is pretty famous for this sport. Then it's Canada and it's Mexico on 3. And then it's like the Japanese guys, they really love the sports, the American sports, baseball and American football. And in the 5th place, it's Europe, it's us. It's like Germany and Austria. Germany has like 10 times the population of Austria. But the top teams of Austria, that's like a really small country next to Germany, they have like 2 top organizations which are also ruling in the top competition at the moment at the European League of Football. So just to give you an overview, we are like on the highest Europe's finest stage here, and I'm just telling you, we still have some major problems, and this is probably too specific to fly somebody in just for the punt, for this long snap mechanics to bring somebody in. But now I come to the point that scout, to learn, to teach somebody how to scout, this is something really interesting because, like Christian said earlier, they're trying to give them a feeling how to run the whole business, how often they have to pay the coaches and the players and stuff like this, and what else needs to be managed to become a real game day and stuff, and the licenses and everything. But at the same time, everybody is like, a couple of years ago, they were doing it all by themselves. Like a couple of guys were reaching out, had good contacts. Some good American coaches have been here, and now they have like a really good contact, and they get the best guys from. So, Christian, please tell us about the status quo from here, from Europe, what we are doing right now, what your convention is built on, and what's the major topics of what you are trying to teach to the scene here to bring it to the next level.
So first of all, I would like to add that I think we in Germany, we don't even have long snappers. We have guys on the team that can long snap,
which is pretty
play. Yeah. So I don't know a few. I know a few like receivers or even backup quarterbacks who have a certain feeling for the ball that can long snap. And try to not get run over after long snapping the ball. So this is, I think this is really special. But I think that a lot of people can learn from it and can really get some valuable information for their team, because all those guys are not currently not trained in any capacity. They just have a feeling for the ball and they flip it back. That's it. I think maybe there are some better teams. I know for sure that like Jürgen Scholl or David Zeller, shout outs. Those guys can really coach their special team units. But I think that's not the usual.
Kai, give us some example of how do you experience like coaching somebody how to scout. So what's your major points you're trying to get them to understand?
Yeah, so basically, anytime you're looking for a long snapper, the first thing you want to look for is are they getting the ball to the punter or the holder, right? So that's the very base level. Can they throw a spiral? Or is the ball getting there? Are they consistent at doing that? You know, and it depends on the level you're scouting for as well. So if you are looking for an NFL long snapper, they're supposed to be at the top of the game, the best in the world. We're not only looking for the snap accuracy, but also the snap speed. Is it getting back there between 0.65 and 0.75 seconds, which is pretty much a straight line of the ball. If there's any kind of dropping of the ball, we can just assume that it's not that fast. And that's just going to help with overall operation time. The other thing we're looking for too is being able to have good size. You know, do they look athletic? There's some guys that can snap the ball at the same spot every time, but they might not have the right build, height, weight, muscle mass. You know, and then we're also looking for athleticism. Can they block? Can they cover? So those are all things that are very high on the list. And there's always these like requirements that we want to try to meet with those too. Like, you know, can they run a 40 and under 4.9? You know, which isn't great, but it's also like you have to understand a lot of these specialized long snappers are long snappers because they weren't able to play another position. So they kind of find a home with that. One of my Pro Bowlers that's probably my most famous athlete is Luke Rhodes for the Colts. He's known for having biceps that are huge and being able to snap the ball really well and cover. He was a linebacker in college and didn't snap until he got to the pro levels. So him making that adjustment or change is something that I think a lot of people have been trying to recreate. You know, I have a lot of linebackers that come to me and say, you know what, I'm a little bit of an undersized linebacker and I want to play. Maybe long snapping will help me stick. So we're running into similar situations that you guys have in Europe where they're a position player that can also snap, but they know that they bring that value. So if it's them versus another tight end, but they can snap, they might edge out that other athlete and be able to keep their job.
Do you, Kai, do you think like there is a possibility of making like a concept out of this? Like you talked, we're talking about like special requirements that need to be reached in special regards of a technician part and body type, and there are like a couple of components. Do you think this could be helpful for European coaches, like to have like a special grading sheet in regards of with more components? Like he's just a good player at linebacker. It consists of more. Do you think there's a possibility to make a concept out of this for general scouting?
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's something I've even written up in the past before. I work pretty closely with like the NFL PA Collegiate Bowl, and the owner or the director was telling me that he needs to teach some scouts how to scout long snappers. So I wrote up kind of a pretty basic outline of what to look for, and he told me he was pretty impressed. He used to be a GM for the Raiders and told me that when he was with the Raiders, they never had anything that detailed. And I'm thinking that's not as detailed as it could be, but that's better than, that's a foot in the right direction. So, just making sure that guys at least know what to be looking for instead of just the very basics. Like I could watch an athlete throw a ball and tell you, even if that was one of their best snaps, if they have a bad snap, I could probably tell you what it is and why it happens, and that's something you watch a quarterback throw and everybody's like, I don't like how his arm moves, or his release is too slow, or his footwork's not great. And they know that stuff. With a snapper, they're like, he snapped it, he got backwards, must be good. There's not that level of detail that's involved. So that's absolutely something that we could get to these scouts and GMs and players and coaches to make sure that they're at least in the know about what they should be looking for, because the position should not be like living in the dark ages and just like, somebody can just do it. Everybody else gets coaching. This is a position that's a very high level and can win and lose games. So we need to be doing the same thing for that.
Are there I hope you understand it right when I say, are there Philip Rivers in long snapping? Because I think Philip Rivers has such a unique throwing motion. Are there long snappers that have very unorthodox mechanics and still are good at their job?
Oh, absolutely. There's always guys that rely on their athleticism to take care of that job. But that comes back to the whole speech that I give guys too. Like, are you effective or efficient? And the guys that kind of just do it and are good at it are relying on their body just kind of taking over and making it happen. But the guys that are at the top of the game and very recreatable and never screw up and are very, very good at it, they understand the technique, the physics aspect of it, and are able to apply that to the best of their ability. So what I coach is there's physics that don't change from sport to sport to sport, from individual to individual. And I give them the tools to be able to pursue those physics without just saying, hey, you know what, you're different, so you can just do it however you want. So while there are people in the quarterback world, they got different throwing movements, there's very structured and rigid standards that you have to be able to at least do these couple things correctly to be elite at that level. And after that point, there's always going to be some variability with it. Because everybody's built a little bit different. Maybe they're taller, shorter, stronger, more mobile, less mobile. So I think those are the things that differ. The physics aspect, creating length and leverage and acceleration and creating a block, those things are always going to be the same.
Hey, Kyle, can you show us something? I know you have prepared something. I want to see some pictures, because the whole time you're explaining it, I want to see something. I want to show it to our audience, like what I have seen on Instagram already. You probably show us some different clips now, but I want you to explain it while we are seeing it. That sounds really interesting to me.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I have a clip here pulled up of my Pro Bowler, Luke Rhodes, doing some off-season training. And basically what we're doing here is he's throwing a field goal snap to his holder, Rigo. What we're looking for here is not only good placement of that ball, so the holder doesn't have to move his hands a lot, but he's also making sure that he's snapping consistently to get those laces in the same exact spot every time. And I know it's tough to see here, but you can kind of see those laces flash up. When he puts that ball down, there's no spinning necessary for the kicker to kick that back panel and not kick the laces, which is going to throw off the accuracy of the kick.
Does he throw it like straight backwards, or is like a limited number of rotation?
So yeah, it comes down to there's a number of rotations that will happen from 8 yards. So that's the typical distance for NFL players, is that the ball's going to travel 8 yards. Typically, the ball's going to spin between 3 and 4 rotations, depending on the athlete and how much wrist flick they get into it. But when you get better at this, you know, hey, if I just throw the ball naturally, the laces are going to come up at a certain distance, or how to make that adjustment to make that happen. So some of these guys are learning how to rotate the ball in their hands or change that distance subtly to make sure that the holder does not have to think or do anything different to screw up the timing of when the ball's snapped to when the kicker gets there and kicks that ball through. So big thing that Luke's working on here is just body control. He's trying to hit the same positions with his core. He's trying to throw his hands to the same position. You can see that when he throws through, he's throwing both of his hands at the target. And we talk about creating a rifle effect. If you throw those hands all the way to the target, it creates a rifle effect rather than a shotgun effect, which is going to drive the ball to the target. If you kind of go to lower levels into long snapping, what you'll notice is that, a lot of guys don't know how to make the ball go to the target. They just throw it and kind of cross their fingers. So just even understanding how this whole process works, the thought process, the physical process, to make sure that, what looks so easy on film here is harder than it looks, and if I'd said, hey, you guys go throw a ball 8 yards to a holder and make sure the laces are straight up, I would be very surprised if you could do it pretty quickly. But that's something that, a lot of guys struggle with. And that's one thing that at the professional level, that's a necessity. If you can't get laces up every single time, we don't want you. You know, that's something that is a requirement.
Hey, Christian, what do you think of the approach of Coach Kyle? Coach K.
Love it. Really love it. And I think that's definitely something that it's probably missing right now in Germany, or at least I would like to hear more about it. And I think there are some ambitious coaches that don't know right now really much about long snapping, and would get great value out of such session with you. So maybe we can bring you over sometimes and have you at one of our clinics.
But that'd be awesome. I think something that my goal is I just want to be able to spread as much information as I can about the position and be able to help guys even at the most basic level. You know, what kind of athlete should I look for? So you mentioned earlier, like maybe a quarterback or a receiver who has a feel for the ball. What I typically look for though is a linebacker or a tight end who may not like have a lot of throwing experience, but they have the athleticism, the build that we're looking for. And I'm pretty confident I can teach just about anybody to snap the ball. So the quarterback body or skill set is not really a requirement. And actually what I found out is anytime I've gotten a former quarterback that wants to learn how to snap, they tend to struggle with the two-handed effect. They want to just throw it, and they struggle with control or spiral because it's just different. It's a different feel, and they've trained this one-handed throw forever. But yeah, that's definitely something that's my goal. I have plans to go to Japan and do some speaking and coaching as well as Canada and things like that too. But as of right now, all these athletes that want to work individually fly here to Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and work with me in my gym. So
show us the gym. I saw these video clips earlier. Show us the gym.
Yeah,
it's
we'll
perfect.
take a look at that quick. Here's the gym.
Hey, do you stop the whole coaching process as soon as the thing we were watching earlier? The holder is also doing something. You don't comment this at all. You don't coach the holder in this particular practice. You just concentrate on the long snapping.
Correct. I don't coach the holder, the kicker, the punter. There's so much work that we could be doing with the long snapper. So I have this whole facility, only long snappers come here. It's solely dedicated to those guys because there's so many little details that we can be refining. I can coach the holder, but at the same time, if we do a good job as a long snapper, there's not much to do there. You just got to know what direction they want the lean, how to be smooth, putting the ball down, and just be able to trust that the snapper is going to get you the ball correctly and that the kicker is going to come at the right time and make that kick for you guys.
Play your gym, your facility one more time. I love to see it. Can you show it one more time? It's like.
So we got all the banners of the collegiate teams I work with, and that's kind of just a fraction. I don't have all the teams up there yet. My pro wall of fame with all my NFL, CFL, USFL, XFL guys. Got enough space to snap full speed, and I have a radar that runs the whole time to tell us speed and get information off of every single snap that happens. Whiteboard to take notes on. So we got just about everything we need.
That's cool. That's great.
Are you coaching the blocking afterwards as well?
Absolutely. So that's something that a lot of guys will struggle with is how do you protect? Nobody really teaches it. So I have a clip of Luke Rhodes again, one of my favorite guys to show. But you can see here in this clip that he's working on after the snap, a 15-yard snap, protecting and getting backwards in protection. So it's something that, you know, not only do you have to know when your snap is done and when the transition can begin, so that way you're not shorting the snap or waiting too long, but we also need to know what body position do we need to get into? How much distance should we be getting? Where should we be placing our hands? How to strike, how to get your body in a decelerated position. Because as a long snapper, it's the only position where you're in a retreating position and it happens so quickly. So you're not like an offensive tackle where you can take a couple kick steps and they're meeting you. You're trying to stop them. we're trying to absorb, we're trying to redirect. So that whole component is completely different. So anytime I have let's say a college draft eligible snapper send me film, if they're snapping and kick sliding, I know that they're brand new at it. I know they've never done it before, because that footwork isn't going to be kind of acceptable or what's going to work best at the highest levels.
So what about the tackling afterwards?
That's a tough one. Not the best tackler in my career. That's something that's very important. And honestly, a lot of times long snappers, if the long snapper's making the tackles for your team, you're in trouble. Your scheme might not be great. Your athletes are getting double covered or something like that. But yes, so tackling is extremely important. And at the very least, just coaching these guys on how to put themselves in the best position for when that does happen. So I do have really good athletes that are great at getting downfield, and they'll get in on some tackles. But man, it's hard to make tackles anyway. I would say at the NFL level, if they're getting like 4 tackles to 8 tackles in a season, that's really good, which doesn't sound great. But at the same time, you're getting only a handful of punts a game, and you shouldn't be making those tackles. The gunners should be down there first because of the hang time. But yeah, it's definitely important. Tough to do in the gym. There's not a lot of space. Typically aren't wearing pads out there anyway, but and not a lot of eager volunteers to be tackled either.
I have a question. Like, you coached a long snapper, like perfectly efficient in what he's doing. Did you have some punters that were not happy with the way they receive the football? Oh,
no. So the more efficient that snapper is, the more like that punter is just amazed at how they don't have to move and it just gets there. If the snapper's doing it really well, the ball should just like appear in their hands. They don't have to like go get it and bring it into themselves. And they're not trying to rip it back there as hard as they can. So it's like hard to catch and maybe comes back with a little shake on it. So the smoother the spiral, the more efficient the long snapper, the easier it just makes it for everybody else.
Do you also have like a rotation number for the punting long snap, or is it just for the field goal extra point?
Just for field goal. So rotations on punt, you want a tight rotation, but there's not a lot of people that will even look at like how many rotations are, because you're just kicking it, you're catching it, and that punter's always going to rotate the ball to the laces. I've had a couple coaches mentioned, hey, I have a snapper that can get the laces up every time on punt. The distance is just so great, and there's so many different variables that I'm sure we could get it pretty close, but it's not something that's been a priority as of right now. Maybe in the future, as we continue to refine the position, maybe that becomes like the forefront. Let's make perfect laces on punt, so the punter just has to catch it and go. But right now, it's not too much of a variable to even be a big deal.
Okay, let's switch topics a little bit. After you explained, like, I love it. I can listen to you for hours. Seriously, I love the way how detailed you tackle all these little issues and everything. But I'm interested, like, but I'm giving you the word, like, again. First, like, what do you know about the European League of Football, European football, German Football League, Austrian Football League? What is your expectation, like, coming here and teaching the kids? What do you think? What do they know already?
Yeah, so honestly, I'm still learning and learning more every day about the German and European football leagues. But from my experience, there's not been a lot of knowledge. I've worked with a couple guys on teams. I had an athlete that was in the CFL who now plays for Tirol.
What's his name?
Nicholas,
I used to play.
Nicholas.
Gustav?
Yeah,
good kid.
So he's a client of mine. And so I just want to get these guys some kind of knowledge. They don't have to become a pure long snapper. I don't expect them to love the position right off the bat. I personally hated the position. I intentionally screwed up in high school, so I didn't have to play it. And then in college, I just did it because it was the only position they would let me play. And now I coach it for a living. So it's not the sexiest position, and I don't really need people to fall in love with it, but at least be able to understand the basics of how to get the job done. So at the very least, you'll have these coaches on a team that can find, hey, who can at least get the ball back there. Now here's at least a handful of coaching cues that would make sense, instead of what I typically hear is such out of the box coaching cues that aren't even applicable. They don't help they're just like, regurgitated information instead of thoughtful and apply to, the position, every sport all around. So just the basic information at the very least.
I got you. Christian, what is your convention all about? Like, do you have like special teams speeches already, or how basic is it, or how far into detail it goes already? Tell us a little bit.
I tried to have at least 2 special team topics on those 2 days at each issue. And yeah, I think the details are very mixed, because we try to set up a convention where everybody who's there drives home with more knowledge than he came. So we try to have something really basic, but not too basic for some of the more experienced coaches. And we need to have some really top-notch speakers as well for guys like, him, Schuan or Coach Newman or so, because those are really, really awesome coaches that are spreading their knowledge in Germany and in Europe. And we need to get those guys here as well. So I think we have different grades of detailing in our sessions. And I think especially in the field of special teams, they are pretty much more detailed, because there's not so much different stuff to coach. It's like punting. But if I have a topic like offensive system or something like that, it can get really big. But in special teams, you try to concentrate on like one movement or one scheme, and so these are, I think, much more detailed than some of the other sessions are. But as I mentioned, we have guys from Alabama, from Clemson. We had one this year. If they get to talk deep into their X and O stuff, then it gets probably really wild for like 80% of our visitors. But we need those sessions as well.
You get the experience somewhere.
Yeah.
To know what's out there, right?
Yeah, Kai, what kind of experience did you make already when you had kind of that super specific presentations?
Yeah, so I've done a handful of clinics already. My last clinic was the Wisconsin High School Football Coaches Association, which was really good. To be honest, I was very surprised. I packed a room. I had more guys come to my session than the Kansas offensive coordinator did. I was impressed. But yeah, it was high school all the way to college, with as far as the coaches that were attending, and we were able to install basic stuff, more advanced stuff, and then some of the stuff that, and at least show what my guys at the elite levels are doing. And then afterwards, which is great, but also kind of a hassle, every coach wanted to come up and ask questions about things and just get more information. So, it does seem like people are hungry for information on it, because there's none. I mean, if you Google it, you YouTube it, you can get some bits and pieces here and there, but it's not like it's not the whole cow, it's not the whole thing that, for everybody just to go find.
So how do you normally like coach coaches? Like, how do you try to give them the missing knowledge? Like, probably here in Europe, you will not be able to be like to get housing to really coach the players itself. So how is your approach when you coach the coaches? Probably some teams don't even have a special teams coordinator. How do you coach them? How do you do that?
Yeah, so typically, like in the States, I'm open to talking to any coaches that want to be introduced to it. So I've met with a ton of Division I football coaches who just want to know, like, hey, I don't have time to work with these guys, but what are a couple things I can at least look for and be able to tell them if they're having a bad day, if they need to work on their spiral, if they're struggling to get the ball back there fast enough. So that's something where typically I'll hand them a couple drills that will get those athletes at least going in the right direction and feeling for those specific components that they're lacking in. But yeah, I think it's just about trying to find out what their needs are and trying to meet those needs as specifically as possible.
I think coaching long snappers here in Germany or in Europe could pay dividends right now, because what goes wrong in like punting or field goal situations. Probably 90% it's the long snap. Because you can coach up, you can put your athletes on gunner, and you can put your big guys to protect the punt. And I think you will have one guy that can punt a little bit at like 30 yards. But I coach youth football and I coach man football in like regional level, which can be good in Germany, but don't have to be good. And probably like every third, fourth, fifth punt is like, he messed up the long snap again. And if you really have some guy that can coach a long snapper up, you have a big part of your game professionalized, and you don't have to worry about it anymore, because I don't know, but I think you can coach it one time, and then he probably knows what he's doing, right?
Right. And this, at least giving them the basic information, right? The last thing you want to do as a coach is like send your punt team out on the field and have to hold your breath because you have no idea that if it's gonna go well or not.
Been there, done that.
The punt unit, the field goal unit, that should be something where you should go talk to the offense or the defense, because you know it's going to be fine and they're going to do their jobs. But unfortunately, that's not the case, and that's why even here, like at the high school level and the college level, even sometimes too, like the guys don't know what they're doing, and you can tell. And the more knowledge they have, the easier the skill gets for them.
So what would the crash course look like if you have like a really short amount of time coaching somebody up? If you're doing like a little trip through Europe, different kind of cities and stuff, how long do you need? What's to expect in a short amount of time? You can coach a group of 5. Do you have to go individually, or how would you do it?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So like I said, the guys that I typically work with in person they're already good. They're already decent. They get the ball back. They're a one-on-one. We're digging into the details. If we're looking at guys that are new to the sport or the position and want to just get the basic knowledge, I've done a ton of little clinics like that here and there, where it's ranged from a small group to a larger group, where we work on, here's how you hold it. Here's how you get a spiral. What should your posture look like? How are we going to be throwing the ball through the legs? How do you control your body? How do you make the ball go back to the target? And then how do we build consistency on that as well? So I think my goal would be to at least be able to do some small clinics. And I've done some things in the past with coaching clinics here in the States, where we just get like, hey, everybody, let's partner up. Let's get a ball. This is what I teach guys. Try it out for yourself. Can you feel what we're trying to do? And if they can feel it, then they can coach it. And just be able to kind of give it that trickle down effect. I give them the knowledge and they can just like give it down to their athletes. Or if we could do something where send your athletes to this clinic, I will give them the information they need to at least be serviceable at the very least, and hopefully get as much knowledge as they can gain to become as efficient as possible.
Sounds great. I would love to have you here, because I used to coach a couple of guys at this position already. They did bring different talent to the table, and we were working on little problems and stuff. And I'm also really detailed, just like you are. And I saw progress, and I really love it. But I have one question about the leg pop, because when I was watching about your videos, do you want the guys to have it that hard popping that they're jumping back or not? You want them to stay at the same position, right?
Correct. So if you look at any other sport where you throw or strike, you need to be able to create a block to be able to transfer energy. And so the fact that if you Google long snap or watch any YouTube video, most people will tell you have to hop or slide your feet back. Well, then I pose the question, okay, so if you're throwing a punch, should you be like running through your punch, or should you be stepping and throwing your punch? Do you jump when you swing your baseball bat, or do you stay grounded? And so what I've discovered through my 15 years of coaching here is when I get a guy that stays grounded and is more efficient with their throwing movement, they actually transfer their energy better and throw a faster ball than if they were to try to get all of their energy moving backwards. So there's a big difference, when we get that loft off the ground or that jump off the ground, you kind of dissipate your energy rather than sending it into the football.
Mm-hmm. So it could be like an introductional little drill of
Absolutely.
feeling it, how to straighten your legs.
How to straighten your legs, or at least at the very least staying grounded. So you don't have to lock out your legs, but you need to be firm. In the same way when a quarterback steps, their front leg should not be like giving out on them through the throw. It needs to be firm. And I've seen videos where some quarterback coaches want them to lock their front leg and throw, and some just say it just has to be firm. Kind of the same process with a long snapper. As long as they're controlled and grounded, they should be able to throw their fastest ball with the least amount of effort.
And that's something I was studying sports science, so this whole biomechanics is like really interesting. That's such a young science, because astronomy and stuff like this, people for many thousand years are taking notes already. And our sports science, like stretching, we were talking about like back in the days, like whipping and stuff. Now we know this makes the tension even higher. It's not my native language. It's really hard to express it right now. But it's like we are always getting to a new level of understanding. And I really like your approach of having it like really firm and minimizing the components of failure and stuff, like doing it like really with the big force without any control and stuff. So yeah, there is something I really like about your approach, and I can see it in your videos as well, like the measurements. It's faster, it's more on target, and you do good. Yeah, Christian, do you have questions to Coach Carl? I'm always talking the whole time. Sorry, Christian.
Oh, no problem. I wonder if there's one tip about long snapping that you could give out right now, and maybe most of the guys can have very much value from that.
Yeah. So when you're long snapping, I think one of the most basic things that I have to coach and overcoach and recoach to a lot of guys is the more balanced you can be with your hands, the more driven and accurate you can be. However, most guys grab the ball like they're going to throw it, and they think about this hand just kind of helping, almost like a free throw. If you think of your throw more like a chest pass, like you're throwing both hands to the target, it will become a lot more accurate and place the ball where you want it to go. So not only being more balanced and using your hands more evenly, but even just driving your hands to the target, maxing out your wrist in the same way you shoot a basketball or you throw a baseball, you flick your wrist through the ball. And if you can think of yourself as like a jugs machine, those two wheels spinning through and driving through that ball, that's what's going to take your ball to the target. It's more of you commanding the ball to go to the target rather than you just suggesting the ball to go to the target. So soft wrists versus complete, tight, and deliberate wrists. So I would say with everything else kind of out the window, stances aren't great, the movement's not as efficient. If you can balance your hands and throw a tight barrel where you want the ball to go, the ball should go there.
And if this doesn't help, like take out your punter to a dinner or for something, get to know your colleagues. That's probably something that's also really important.
Right.
But to get the whole rotation going, you have to have that special hand placement in the beginning. Correct. Because the way you show it, it's like pretty parallel and simultaneously, but it has to start in a different starting position, right?
Correct.
That's probably something many athletes or non-athletes have a hard time in understanding. How can I end up in this, even though I started in a different? So what's the starting position of holding the hand?
Yeah. So let me grab a football quick. So basically what we're looking at doing here is when you hold the ball, very simply, you want to hold it like you would a quarterback. However, on the back side of the ball, if we put our middle finger down the seam, it creates a north and south pull through the center of the ball. So as you press through that football, you're getting equal and opposite pressure through those index fingers, which then allows it to rotate off your hand. So as I press through this ball, I'm using my peace signs, my index and middle finger to drive the ball through, and that creates that outward finish. So once again, most guys think I'm just going to grab it however I want and try to spin it. Your hand position will create spiral if you just push and flick. And if you don't start balanced, you can't end balanced. So if you're off with your hands, you're going to be off with your finish. So we want this type of finish, a controlled, deliberate finish. And if you can start with equal pressure and make sure that you are not over squeezing with either hand and that you're fluid with the wrist roll and flick, that's going to be able to make that ball go where you want. But I see guys that are trying to like put their hand on the side and create spin. There's a bunch of different variations that guys will put their hands on the football with. And then whether they're just letting the ball come out or making it come out makes a big difference too.
That, I guess that's a clip many of European players will have a look at.
Yeah,
this little
good.
particular explanation, this was really good because you mentioned many really important things nobody ever has taught us here. It's like that equally pressure in the end and stuff. And in the beginning as well, but how can you keep it up even though your hands like rotating, also your wrists have a movement while they are doing it. So this was something I guess that will help our guys here a lot better than the regular tutorials they have watched before, because this is like bad quality and stuff. I really love this explanation. What do you think, Christian?
One question: do you think that a lot of strength is needed? So do I have to go to the gym, or is it just natural?
Always go to the gym. Don't never skip it. But you don't need a lot of strength. You don't need to be the best athlete on your team. I work with guys that are built like twigs. I got guys that are bigger. I got guys that are tall, short. So it doesn't really matter. What really matters, honestly, and what I tell most coaches who are looking for their long snapper, find someone that wants to do it. Because if they don't want to do it, if you're like, hey, stud linebacker, you're going to be our long snapper, and he doesn't care, he's not going to work on it. He's not going to care. He's not going to put the time into it. This is a skill that requires some effort and some time put into that skill. So make sure that you're at least finding someone that cares and understands that this is important. If you screw this up, we could lose. So put the time, put the effort into it that we need to. But even with the spiral, just thinking like never trying to create spin. You're just pressing and flicking, and simplifying it. I think most guys try to overcomplicate it because they don't know what to be looking for.
Isn't it great? Because we are not from the country where the sports was invented, but we are all kind of fanatic and crazy for this sport. Isn't it great that we are talking an hour already about some really detailed stuff, even though sometimes we have the problem here, it's only 10 men on the field. So I don't want to say like we have a bad kind of quality here, but this is awesome. I could talk to coaches for hours, and I really enjoyed this. I don't want to end this up. I don't want to cut you short. I just told everybody this is about an hour, the Enrico Martini show. This was a really special expert talk about some really specific stuff, and I will send you the feedback, guys, because they will send it to me and ask for stuff, and I think this was really interesting. Is there something you didn't mention, even though you were prepared for this conversation? Because everything afterwards, we will be able to stay in touch and everything. I really appreciate the passion, the way you expressed whatever you're standing for. We didn't hear that much about the conventions here in Europe, but I don't care, because REDZONE is doing a great job of bringing it to the next level, and they really do, because the events are really great, and people are following more and more and understanding how detailed you have to make something. That's the only way how it functions. You spend time on something, you spend some money on. Obviously, he cannot host the events for free. It's not possible, and he's not even living from this now, by far not. He tries to make it even in the end of the day. He's just doing it for the passion. That's what most of our players here in Europe do it, and all the guys involved, they do it just because of the passion for the game. And I'm really proud of you, Carl, that you made a living out of this, even though it's like rocket science to us, how specific you work on that. But I love to see your helmets and your trophies in the background, because like you were explaining at high school, college, and now coaching it for 15 years. I'm really proud of you.
Thank you.
Maybe not many people tell you this, but this is something even for your environment probably freakish the way you do it, but you do it perfect.
I
It was
appreciate that.
really a pressure, not a pressure. I have some pressure on my heart right now because it's so nice the way you're expressing the love for what you do, and people will reach out to you because you're an absolute specialist in what you're doing.
Well, thank you. And that's absolutely what I'm going for is just being able to reach as many people as I can with the knowledge that I've gained myself. So I just want to say that the REDZONE Instagram account that I was checking out earlier, stuff looks awesome. The videos I was checking out looks really cool. So I would love to be a part of that someday if you guys would have me. But in the meantime, if anybody needs to contact me, they can always find my website, specialteamsu.com, or follow me on Instagram, which is, again, specialteamsu. But even just watching the videos I post, hopefully people can get a better understanding of what it should and could be, instead of just like getting the ball back there and hoping, crossing your fingers, hoping it gets there.
Was it on your stories like yesterday or the day before where you posted a couple of pictures of your clients, of your colleagues, of your sportsmen, of your young athletes you bring to the next? It was like 100. I was counting them because it was easy. It was like 4 times 5. It was always 20.
Yep.
Each page, it was like more than 100. Are you crazy?
That was just this off season. That was just the last few months. All those guys were in here chasing perfection, posting about like and during that time, it was guys from every single league, from NFL, CFL, XFL, USFL. So that was I thought that was a pretty powerful couple images to share. So yeah, I'm glad that you saw it. That's really cool.
And I only hear like really good stuff about Niklav Gustav from Tyrol, because that was my club where I was playing for a long time, for over a decade. And he's like a really disciplined, good guy and really good at technique. And he has a couple of sacks already in the season. He is performing on every level. And you did a part of this development.
He's also a very good long snapper too.
Yes, sure. See, that's absolutely crazy. He's a super sound soldier. That's what I hear from the Raiders. They are so happy to have him, because he's a new kid to this team. He joined like, I guess, last year or something.
Yeah.
And the Tyrolean, the Austrians sometimes are a little bit strange in the beginning. They don't let you in so quickly. I was there for over 10 years. The first year, they didn't really talk to me. Even though I'm super extroverted and open-minded and everything, but they were like, he's probably coming here to our premium football program and he will leave like next year and going back to Germany and stuff. No, I didn't. I stayed there for over 10 years, and now I'm sitting in Vienna. You probably don't know. It's the Vienna Vikings. We also have fans there. That's the 2 prime programs here in Austria, and we have some good development in Germany going on. They all come together in the European League of Football. What should I tell you? You have questions, I will let you know. But Christian, you also have the opportunity to say something in the end of this show. I'm really thankful. I will not have the last words. Kyle, thank you. Christian, thank you. There was a nice hour of my life. I really enjoyed it. Enrico Martini show, really psychopath edition. It was you part of this. I really thank you.
Thank you, Enno, and I really want to echo what you said earlier. It's maybe it sounded like this, but it's not all bad with American football in Europe. We all are getting better, and we are getting better fast. I think the level of football rises here in Germany, in Austria, and in Europe. But the details of long snapping, there is really much room to grow, so it could pay immediate dividends. I think we need to get you over here, Kyle.
I appreciate that. I'm more than happy. I'm ready to go, passport in hand. Let's make it happen.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, my lovely fans. This was Enrico Martini Show, 24th edition. I will play the intro outro from the friend of mine in Dresden. He's a talented musician, and I really like that song. Maybe you also do. So have a nice evening, and see you guys. Bye.
Flex, less I'm sick like her. I don't flex, less I don't flex, less I don't flex, less I'm sick like her.